So I got my phone out and checked where we were going and realized we're going in the wrong direction. He grabbed my phone, put it in the central bit. Fee is now 60 euros. You pay me 60 euros, you'll get your phone back.
That was starting to sound like a kidnapping situation.
My number one priority was to get him to stop the car. I was messaging Tony and the others saying I'm in this situation. Because I can navigate my way back, that's fine. But I can't navigate a car accident if we're having a serious one. And there was genuine fear that was going to happen. When you're in the moment, it's harder. Your thoughts control your feelings, but not your circumstances.
Good afternoon, Nick. How you doing on this rainy afternoon?
Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, we're recording a little bit earlier today than usual. Hence my makeshift backdrop that I've kind of hobbled together very quickly because I've been recording a different show. But no, I'm good. I've got my glasses on today. So a bit of a new look for you.
I was going to say, because I'm like, do I normally see you in glasses? Is this for long-sightedness or short-sightedness, or what's it for?
They're reading glasses. I think I finally succumbed to the fact that I need them. Basically, I've been getting this really bad left eye twitch. And I think it's because my eyes I thought that maybe I was just tiredness, jet lag, whatever, but it's not going away. And someone said, you need glasses, put them on, it'll help better. And I'm like, it's a whole shift because I don't like wearing glasses. I have to be honest with myself, the eye twitching has reduced, shall we say, since I've been wearing them. Yeah, so.
Are they readers that you just get for like £2 down in Boots and things like that? Or are they from
They're reading glasses. They weren't £2. I think these are like Tommy Hilfiger ones, but I've had them for ages. I've never worn them. They've stayed in the case since I got them, but they're reading glasses, but they are, because I obviously spend so many hours looking at my computer screen reading without them, I've succumbed to starting to wear them. I don't like them. I don't think they suit me very well, but I'll let the audience decide.
They don't look too bad, I've got to say. I have the opposite in that I have to take my glasses off to read. So, because my eyes have changed now, whenever I'm wearing contact lenses or glasses, I can't read mobile phones, menus, anything like that. And at the moment, I'm having a bit of difficulty with the computer because when I've got my glasses on, it's a little bit blurry. When I've got my glasses off, it's a little bit blurry. I'm not sure what's going on with that, unless my eyes are changing in some way, shape or form. But actually, speaking of reading glasses, it reminds me watching an episode of Shark Tank years ago, which is the US version of Dragon's Den. I don't know if you ever watched that, but
yeah, I've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah, it's way better than Dragon's Den. But there was a really good invention a few years ago, and I thought about buying it, but you can only buy it in the States. And I know you sometimes go to the States, but they're reading glasses, but they flick around the wrist. So when you're not using them, you know those old
fold-up ones,
80s, when you used to knock it onto your wrist and it used to wrap around. It's exactly like that. So you knock it on and it wraps around, and then when you want it, you take it off. It doesn't have all the whatever these bars are called. It kind of catches onto the side of your face. So it's not got a full arm that goes over the ear. It just clips on, and it's only meant for when you're looking at a menu. So it wouldn't be suitable for when you're on the computer all day. But if you're out and about and you want to see a menu, you want to see a phone, you take it off your wrist and you put it on your face, then you put it back on your wrist. And I like that idea because you always putting the glasses down and can't find them and everything else, or you have to put them on your head, or you put them, around your neck. Really, really annoying. And I thought there'd be a few knockoffs on Amazon that I could get for the UK. I think there maybe are, but they got a good patent. And so I think they're only shipped in the US, but they're worth, I'll have a look for them and I'll send them to you because they're probably worth investing in, because then they're there on your wrist all the time. Like lights. So. But yes, it comes to us all, unfortunately. It happens.
I know. I've been trying to reject them, but I got these over a year ago, honestly. So I didn't even know where they were. I fished them out, but they have been helping. And hey, I can see it feels like it's a cheaper way than buying a bigger monitor, because now the monitor just looks bigger, right? So,
well, you know what? When I first got glasses, when I was 16 years old. So I was actually the last person in my family to get glasses, because both my sisters and my parents and everyone had glasses before me. And I remember when I put them on one evening and I looked up at the moon and I was like, you can actually see like craters and definition in the moon. Whereas for years before, I just seen like a white blob in the sky.
I remember the day when I diagnosed my daughter needed glasses. She'd have been 2 or 3 years old, and we were looking at boats, or I was looking at boats, I should say, at Llandudno Beach, and we were looking out, and I was like, oh, look at the boat, and she said she couldn't see it, and I didn't believe her. And at the time, I was like, of course you can. She's like, no, I couldn't. I was like, oh my God, she needs glasses. Took her in. She always had a imaginary best friend that she called her cry sister. That's my cry sister. That's my cry sister. I don't know why she called her cry sister, but her cry sister was always sad, but she was always happy. She was the happy one of the two. And that was kind of or we thought was an imaginary friend. Anyway, we took her to the optician. She got her first pair of glasses. And two things happened. The first is she came out, and in St Albans, there's cobbled streets outside Specsavers. We went in, or Vision Express, whatever it was. And she went, oh my God, everything's big. I can see everything big now. Like everything's in focus and it's bigger. But second thing was she said she'd lost her cry sister. So she said, now I only see one of everything. She had no idea. Everything she was looking at came with a shadow, like an additional outline. And she didn't know any different. It's all she'd seen since she was born. So the cry sister was when she looked herself in the mirror, she'd see this outline shadow, and she named that outline her imaginary friend. And she'd look at me or mummy. We all had it. And she was like, oh, now I only see one of everything. You think it touches you. You're like, oh my God, for so long. But then she didn't know any different. She thought that's how everyone looked, right? It was like, oh, that moment.
They're not suffering or anything like that in any way that they're aware of. And they're just seeing the world differently, which I think children do anyway, because I think they see different energies and auras that we can't. Honestly, I think the way that our brain develops it, and it does condense from a wavelength point of view. They're usually in, I think, gamma and delta waves for the first 7 years of their lives anyway, until they become a bit older, then they go to alpha and beta waves like we do. But I think when you're in those higher wavelengths and just generally coming through to this plane of existence, let's not get too like esoteric with this, but I think that they are very much in tune with things that we cannot see or comprehend. And we just think it is baby talk and craziness, but I think they're really in tune with things. Actually, I was chatting to a friend of mine about a month ago, and he's got 4 children. At one point, he had 4 children under 5. Now, I think they're...
And that's a battle.
Yeah, I think they're 4 under 5. They're all about a year apart. So now they're maybe 8, 7, 6, 5, something like that. Anyway, they're homeschooling all of them. And the mum is homeschooling them. And they're a bit alternative. Like, say, for example, well, not really alternative. They were, he's an actuary. So that's, like a high-level accountant, right, for pensions. And I can't remember what she used to do, but she's now homeschooling them. But they had taken them out of, they were in a different kind of school. But before I actually go into the schooling bit, I mean, they did all home births. The last 2, they didn't even have a midwife there. And the last birth that she did was like what's called a wild pregnancy, where you find out you're pregnant and then basically that's it. You don't go to the doctor, you don't do scans, you don't do anything. You just like live like it's like that. She knows her body. She's kind of into all the meditations and whatever. And then she gave birth to the child herself, like just squatted, popped it out, basically caught it. They don't remove the umbilical cord or anything like that. So they walked around for like 3 or 4 days with the baby and the placenta together. And then it just drops off naturally, which I didn't realize. So it's after a few days. But I've got to say the kids are the most chilled children ever. They're super helpful. They're always helping with like peeling food ready for dinner. And the way that they're learning is through, I think it's what's called Steiner education. I'm sure you've kind of looked into things like this.
I'm not familiar.
Waldorf, something like that. And I was trying to look it up. But the way that she described it was quite interesting, because she was describing it in a different way from the YouTube videos. But she was describing how the real purpose is to get the human body ready for being in this world, like from transitioning from where they were before, effectively, to understand and be more practical with things as well. So they learn a lot of practical skills like knitting and tapestry or whatever, I don't know, or like lots of practical things but practical skills, obviously no exams, no formalized things like that, but they still learn some of those maths and English and all of that. But the way that she was describing it was really interesting, because she was saying about how it was about really getting the spirit ready for a human experience, which I thought was really an interesting way. I haven't seen that described in the YouTube videos. I was trying to explain to my mum about Steiner schools, and none of the YouTube videos were really talking about that aspect. She was. And I just thought it was quite interesting. So the point being that as children, we are almost like 1 foot in this reality and 1 foot in the previous one, I think. And so they see things so differently. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I prescribe to all of that, but everyone's different. I do think the kids we learn a lot of things along the way, that things that aren't necessarily true, and you know more about the world, which can be a scary place as well. But you're fearless as a child, really. You're learning, you're exploring, you're open-minded, you haven't been politicized, you haven't been led in any particular direction necessarily, certainly when you're very young. So you're open to new experiences and opportunities, and everything's new, right? New flavors, new sets, smells, new senses. Your body's constantly learning. It's why the brain develops so quickly when you're a child. So I think there's some truth in some of those things. Whether that means they are able to see different auras and things, who knows? I'm not here to say yes, no, as I can't remember that time. My memory as a child is pretty limited, to be honest. But I do think that as adults, it's all the layering of give ourselves so many limiting beliefs as adults as we get older, things not being possible.
We quite literally harden in that. If you think about a child and how bendy, flexible they are, literally, you drop them off a building, basically. Not that I'm saying that I have done or will do or advise.
And they don't need a warm-up. That's an easy word. They don't need a warm-up to go and run in an instant sprint, right?
Stretch. They're just ready to sit on the floor and do whatever. But also, they're flexible. I remember hearing a yoga teacher say this once. I'm not sure if I shared it with you before, but it really resonated with me. I was at a yin yoga class, which is one of these classes where you hold a pose for ages and relax. And so he was talking about how it's better to have flexibility between the ears than it is flexibility between the hips. And I love that phrase, right? Because I think as adults, we lose our flexibility both between the hips and between the ears. And I think as a child, you have that flexibility, which is why you pick up things much quicker, because your mind, those neural connections haven't been formed. You haven't put the tracks down. It's a bit like having the countryside. You can roam anywhere in the countryside. As soon as you start putting tarmacked roads, you tend to follow the road. Doesn't mean you can't go off the road, but you tend to follow the tarmacked road.
The same is true for comfort. I mean, about Moshe from the Feldenkrais method, where, I can't remember the exact that Moshe Feldenkrais had, but he was unable to walk, was told he'd never walk again. And he learned to rewalk by studying the movements of babies and toddlers and infants, and realized they had, almost perfect postural control. And they don't waste energy trying to do those simple exercises. They do the minimum amount to get from A to B when they're learning. And that if you look at children, most children have almost perfect posture in the way they stand up straight, they stand up tall, and they sit up solid. My son Leo is 12. He sits at a desk. His back is like perfectly postured. And you see us, or people like me, and we've got all this comfort around us and cushions and different things. We end up, I certainly do, end up slanched over, and you end up with bad backs. I get really bad back on this side because obviously my levels aren't quite right. And you think, you get all this comfort, or shoes, as we all know, there's people with the Vibram and barefoot walking, but we've got all this comfort in our shoes, which it changes all of our postural, the way that we're set up posturally. So I think, we sometimes, in trying to make ourselves comfortable, we make ourselves uncomfortable. We sacrifice the short term for the long term. I think you were talking a slightly different point on a podcast a few episodes ago, where I think we were talking about Ozempic, and like I sent you a link recently, didn't I, about some new findings on people taking Ozempic are suffering 40 or 50% more tendon related injuries. But you were saying that these drug companies come out with one solution, but in doing so they also create at least 3 or 4 other drugs to solve the side effects that they almost deliberately create, so they keep the machine working.
I remember hearing a comedian once years ago. I can't remember whether it was Bill Maher or someone like that, but he was saying, look, there's no money in healthy people, but there's also no money in dead people. Like, the money is in the people in between. You want to keep them in between, because
that's true. It's
true. Yeah, I mean, like what you were talking about with Leo and posture and all of that. It reminded me of this phrase I often say to my students if I'm giving them a bit of a motivational talk before going up on stage because they don't want to do it. I say to them, look, when you do what is easy, your life becomes hard. When you do what is hard, your life becomes easy. And it is hard to get up, learn to cook, go to the gym, speak on stage, but then your life becomes much easier later on. It's easy to sit back, watch Netflix, order takeaway, whatever, but then your life becomes much harder. And it's
walk down the street because you just don't get your body's moving. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. So when I was at my friend's before, the one with the 4 children that I was talking about, their house is taken over with the homeschooling. They don't have even a dining table, actually. So they actually sit on the floor. I was thinking, that's actually pretty cool, right? I mean, they're Indian as well, so they have a different sort of cultural background as well in that regard. But most of my other Indian friends, they still eat off dining tables, right? They're not eating off the floor. But what I like about it is that it forces you to do that as well. And so it becomes part of your natural way of being to get up off the floor, sit on the floor comfortably. When you sit on the floor, you're constantly shifting a little bit here and there. So you're doing a lot of movement. But in the beginning, it's hard, right? But then much later, your life becomes easy because you have that mobility, right? To be able to do things. So I often think about that quote.
It's a good quote. I think I'm not an expert on homeschooling. I wouldn't ever claim to be. I think the only question mark I would have based on this short summary you've given me of the way they're setting themselves up, and it's a question, because I'm sure they've thought of ways to overcome this, is if you're preparing your children for life, is the way you put it, what life really means is there's an element of community in there and social. And one thing schools are is full of kids, and it teaches you one way or another to be sociable and to find your tribes and to navigate difficult tribes as well sometimes, and those experiences. And if you're homeschooled and you're within a very small community, even if it's a community of homeschooled kids, it's an isolated community in a slightly different way. But like everything, there's pluses and minuses to your solutions.
I agree. And that was my comment, I guess, to them. And also, as the children are getting older, you can't, like when they're 5 and 3 and 4, you can kind of teach them the same. But when they're 5 and 7, 8, you can't, right? They need different things. But also, I did say, they have more input with children because they get together with the other homeschool kids.
Yeah.
But it's still different because it's, I guess, largely supervised. It will be going to a museum. It will be so it's not the same thing. I actually did say that I think for me, one of the foremost influences on my life growing up was being part of the Scout movement, like Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Ventures. And that, taught a lot. I think I was having a conversation with someone the other day. I can't remember where, but we were talking about, like, honestly, my Scout group, I guess what we went through there would definitely be constitute bullying by today's standards, or there'll be, but it toughened you up, if I'm honest, right? A lot of people didn't survive it. Like my sisters as well, they never really survived their experience there. And I think they had an element of that going on. I definitely had an element of being bullied, what would be called bullying by today's standards, and by those standards as well, to be fair. But it taught me a lot. Not just bullied bit really necessarily, but I wouldn't say I was bullied, but like the older kids picking on the younger kids. It wasn't like a real bullying thing. And there was a little bit of racial stuff going there, even though, I'm Greek, but being Greek in Winchmore Hill in the 80s was about as exotic as you got really. So it was a bit of racism as well, but it wasn't that I'm saying that was really formative. It was all the other things that you did, like being outside a lot and learning to camp and learning to do hikes and survival things, and all of these was a massive influence. So I think, like, even if you homeschooled, but then you were doing things like that, like, so every day doing some sort of club or Scouts or martial art or football, whatever, you would get that kind of child interaction to some degree. It's not the same as being at school, but yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard homeschooling, but fair play to them. I'm not sure. I don't know whether that's the best solution or whether that's just a sign of the fact that the schools are, that they feel are appropriate are so few and far between that they feel like there's no other choice but to homeschool them, really. So.
Possibly, yeah. That's a parental decision, I guess. So, have you been otherwise? I've
well, tell me about you, because I couldn't realize, firstly, that you were going away. Maybe you told me, but I had no idea. And then you said you're in the Atlas Mountains, which immediately made me feel very jealous, especially when I saw some pictures. So tell me, who was that with? What was that about? What was the purpose? I saw some pictures of you at the top of the mountains. I saw you going into a cold water where someone chickened out a little bit quickly, and you were like happy as Larry in there.
I was happy because that particular individual, I'll call him out, Tony Leary, is someone who loves to watch me fail at things. He absolutely is one of his favorite pastimes, I think, is watching me fail at stuff. Yeah. We used to train at obstacle course racing together, and we would always have challenge each other. And if we're very competitive at silly sports, table tennis or whatever. And if one wins against the other, we don't let the other forget. That was one thing. When we used to do obstacle course training, he'd always take us on a sort of cold dip somewhere, and he'd be the first in. Everyone else would be, it's really cold. But obviously, I've been doing this cold plunging. So this was cold water. We're 2,000 meters up above sea level. You could see ice around us. It was glacial water. Ice settled around the pools, and it was sort of, we'll get in. And I was like, okay, I'll get in. It was cold. I'm not going to lie. I reckon my guess is around 4 degrees. It was some of the thing was frozen.
Water, right?
Moving. It was moving, yeah.
Colder.
It could have been colder. So I got in, and because of all the cold plunging I've been doing, felt relatively all right, to be honest. I quite enjoyed it. It was quite refreshing. We'd been trekking in 30-degree heat for 7, 8, 9 hours. And it was a good way to cool off and set the muscles recover before the climb day. And it was Tony's idea, not mine, but Tony got to get in and literally just put his toe in the water. And he said it just stung. It just hurt. He got his feet in. He was like, it hurts. It is like needles. And he wouldn't get in initially, but after I got in, he had no choice. He was not going to let me have it. So we went, I think I put the Instagram video out, but he got in after me. But the second he got in the water, he couldn't get out fast enough. His body stopped working. He almost fell over and he got out. So it was good fun. But the Atlas Mountains themselves, brilliant.
As in like to shoulders or just to...
Fully submerged, so head under, the whole body under, yeah, no, it was good. It was good. To be fair, it was cold. The cold stayed with you for a fair bit after we got out.
And so all the purpose of the trip just to get together with old people?
So a friend of mine, Tony, and a few other people that I used to obstacle course race with, decided they were going to go to the Atlas Mountains. And he just reached out and said, do you want to come? So I was like, yeah, come along. So went out to Morocco. Had a really interesting start to my trip. So I arrived in Morocco. I had a cab booked, a taxi booked, but I couldn't find the guy. There was no board with my name on. I tried to phone them. No one answered. I was walking around for 15 minutes. And the guy came up and went, but this happens all the time. You know what? I'll take you where do you want to go? What was the fee? Yeah, so standard me fell for the first trap. And I was like, well, we got 20 euros agreed. Like, yeah, same, fixed price. So he takes me to his taxi, takes my bags, really, really polite, all friendly. Get there, there's another guy in the front seat. And he goes, well, my brother, don't worry, it's okay. I'm like, okay, we get in. I kid you not, the second that he turned the engine on, he left the airport at about 80 miles an hour. Went the wrong side round the barriers to let you in. And then it was like I was in a movie. We drove through the streets of Marrakesh all the way into Marrakesh. So relatively peak hours, like 8:30, 9. There was loads of traffic around. At like 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, slamming his brakes on up onto pedestrian side streets, around the wrong way around roundabouts, overtaking where there was nowhere to overtake, blind corner overtaking. As you know, I've got a bit of PTSD when it comes to car accidents. It wasn't my favorite journey. And I was thinking, okay, we're in, this. I need to get out of this car as soon as possible. This is dodged. I was assuming he was going really fast because he was a dodgy taxi. He wanted to get back and make another pickup as soon as possible. That was my thinking. But insane driving. How he hasn't had an accident or killed someone, or if he has already, maybe he has, but it was worrying. So I got my phone out and checked where we were going and realized we're going in the wrong direction. So I was like, my sat nav says we're going this way, we're going that way. He says, okay, it's okay, don't worry, trust me. I was like, yeah, but we're further away now than we're at the airport. He grabbed my phone, put in the central bit and said, the fee is now 60 euros. He said, you pay me 60 euros and you'll get your phone back. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. I was messaging Tony and the others saying I'm in this situation. So I was like, well, I need to get out the car, number one, because I can navigate my way back. That's fine. I can't navigate a car accident if we're having a serious one. And there was genuine fear that was going to happen. The way he was driving was like nothing. I can't even explain to you or dramatize enough how bad this was. Like whatever I say, it was worse. It was horrendous. And eventually we get a chance to stop. We stop because actually we go down the wrong way down a one-way street and there's police at the other end and they see him and he almost does a handbrake turn, goes the other way. Police are around, not really looking for him, but they're in the area for whatever reason. So he ends up stopping the car and he just says, get out, gets my bags, chucks them out. And he says, 60 euros, 60 euros. And I was like, we're nowhere near where I need to be. And he's like, 60 euros. And I said, I need my phone. He's like, no phone, 60 euros. Anyway, instead of paying any money at that point, I called some locals over. So some locals came over and I said, look, they would just speak English. This is real trouble. Like he's like, no, it's okay. The guy was going, it's not a car. And he owes me money. So I said, I gave him 40 euros. And as he was saying no 60, I darted past him, grabbed my phone from the central bit and just told him to do one. And he got in the car and I thought it was going to turn into a fight, to be honest, but he got in the car and went. The other guy didn't get out, but he was there. So they went off and I was out first day in Marrakesh. I'm nowhere near my hotel. I'm like, oh, what do I do from here? By that point, I've managed the other guys that I'd been trying to phone to find my taxi, got in touch. So I phoned him back and they got another cab to come out and pick me up and get me to his hotel. So it was fine. But that was the start.
Oh my God.
But yeah, long story short, we then had 3-4 days up in the mountains. We did the highest 3 peaks in Morocco. So all of them over 4,000 meters. Yeah, checking across the ice, some pretty gnarly sort of scree climbs, some pretty sharp edges at points. Toubkal was the highest, but that was the easiest of the climbs. That was pretty straightforward and well trodden, but the other ones were a little bit off the beaten track. So that was good fun. And actually in typical style, Harry, we almost coerced our guide to go faster. And we ended up scaling Toubkal on the morning, we overtook about 25 groups to get to the top. And myself and Mark Dixon, I'll say Dixon because he came first, I came second. But we ended up being the 2 quickest to scale the peak in the entire month on Strava. So we were up there in 1 hour, 47 minutes. It takes most people 4 or 5 hours. We were just on it. But yeah, beautiful. We saw the sunrise. Really nice time, just playing around. Good friends, good chat, good trekking. And then the last day, we were going to go back home. We decided to go for a run in Marrakesh. So went for a nice run around the city. And nice heat, whatever. Thought we'd cool ourselves down in the fountains, the public fountains. They were sort of all pretty and going over. So we went, just got some footage, went through several times. And all 4 of us on the run have come back with terrible food poisoning. So there must have been something in the water. And it's been horrendous. I vomited all over the airport gate, to change seats on the aeroplane. Couldn't drive home. I had to get a hotel in Bristol and stay there. I was in a bad state for at least 72 hours. I'm still recovering now, to be fair. It's a week on.
It sounds like quite an intense trip anyway, because I was going to say, if it was just you having the food poisoning, maybe it was a combination of the extreme altitude and the cold and the stress of it all. But if it's 4 of you, then...
We thought it might have been the food, but one of the party was gluten-free and he didn't eat with everyone else. And he was he got sick as well. And all 4 of us are the ones that run, and all 4 of us went through the fountain. So we think it's the fountain.
Drinking water, the same water. Because water, it is water poison, like from water. I've drunk water where I shouldn't have been drinking the water once. I remember in Greece where they refused to give me, they just said no to tap water or whatever. Like I said, no, you must give us free tap water. Anyway, I stupidly drunk it. But what I noticed with dodgy water was that my body just didn't want to digest it. And it was just sitting in my belly. It wasn't going anywhere. And then I threw up maybe an hour or 2 later, a couple of hours later. So it was very obvious what it was from.
We vomited without giving you too much information. TMI for the audience was the food. It was the last bit of food we'd eaten, so that's what made us think it was food poisoning. But it was. I went to a Turkish restaurant on the final day, but I think because the guy who was gluten free was also ill, we all went down about 5 to 6 hours later than the water incident. And when I looked online, it's like, this wasn't a fountain that you drink from. This was a fountain, a display fountain. So, this is recycled water that's going around public streets, and it can have E. coli in there, Giardiola. There's loads of different waterborne bacteria that live in these things. And if you watch the video, you'll see a fair bit of it went into our faces and probably into our mouths, and because of the way we're running through them to cool off. So I'm pretty sure that's probably what it was. But yeah, it's stuck around. It's been over a week and still not fully recovered. Worth it in the sense that the experience was epic, but not the great way to finish the trip.
They say it's about creating stories, right? So you've now created another chapter to your book.
There you go. Life's about stories.
So, and you survived, which is good. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of when I was in Indonesia, when I was traveling 25 years ago, and we'd agreed this price with me and this guy. I'd agreed this price with this guide, and he was going to take us into the jungles, which we did, and see like orangutans and whatever else. But when we got basically halfway to wherever, then prices started to change, and it's like, if you want to come back on the raft, you have to pay the extra $100 or this. I'm going to leave you here. And then you're basically sort of stuck. I mean, they're, 5,000 miles away from home. You're by yourself. You're 22 years old.
You're in a jungle. Yeah.
Okay, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're literally in the middle of a jungle, and you have no idea where you are. And you're basically, easy prey. But I mean, when I think about some of the episodes I've had in my life, I'm lucky somewhat to be here. So it's all extra stories, extra chapters for that.
I was pleased with myself because I stayed very, very calm.
Yeah, I'm surprised because, like, for me, that was starting to sound like almost like a kidnapping situation.
I just thought they were going to take me somewhere, leave me in the middle of nowhere and nick all my stuff and money. That's what I thought was happening. So I was keen to get out the car before we got to the middle of nowhere. But luckily there were people around. I think the police situations obviously helped me out because he panicked. But yeah.
Morocco, though, we got done by the police.
Oh, did you?
I was driving and I wasn't doing anything, I don't think, illegal. But, it was a shakedown, basically. So we had to pay them, to...
Well, that happened at our cycle tour. Were you there in Slovenia?
Yeah. But did we pay those guys or not?
No, but they tried. They tried to. They asked for all our passports.
It's a bit easier to get rid of it in Europe. I had a shakedown there in Thailand last year, actually, where I was, because they get all the tourists on the mopeds. And apparently the license that you have doesn't count for those rental mopeds or something like that out there. There's some other international, you needed some sort of international license and you needed some other piece of paper, neither of which I had, but I didn't realize that until after I had got, basically I got let off. I said, look, it's back at my hotel, my license, which it was. I didn't have my license on me. I got my license back at the hotel. I'll go and get it and come back, which I fully intended to do. So I went back to get it. And then I was going to drive to the place I wanted to go to, but past the roadblock. But when I got back, I started Googling all this stuff. And it said that actually you'll still get done with your license because your license doesn't count. It has to be this international license and it has to be this extra piece of paper. And even then, they still might shake you down on that. So I thought, I saw it. So I decided not to venture out the game. So yeah, you have to be careful. The police might get you as well. But sounds like an adventure. It's all good.
It was an adventure. Yeah, it was an adventure. And they always say that don't be owned by your own emotions. So I was like, okay, just stay calm. I don't want to be distressed by what's going on externally. It's not the thing itself that necessarily troubles me. I'm not in control of how he drives the car. I'm just got to hope that he doesn't end up having an accident and just manage the situation in front of me. So I was kind of having all those conversations in my head at the time going, no, so I breathe, observe what's going on, label, what are my options, where are my exit routes?
Always the exit route. So next time you're going to wait to your designated driver.
I will. Yeah, or phone or stay around for a while. I won't be getting this. And that's my recommendation. Maybe that's the message for today's show. Less mindfulness messaging today. Just the tip is if you're going to Morocco, organise
be mindful of your surroundings. I mean, I think it's hard because you come off a plane, you're tired, you're hungry, you just want to get to the hotel. They know this. They know that you're easy prey. And you just go. I remember one time when I was in Cambodia and I had not planned to go to Cambodia, I don't think, because it was back then, it is still quite a dodgy place. It might still be now. But anyway, I decided to go and visit Angkor Wat. But before I went to Angkor Wat, which is in a place I think called Siem Reap. I went from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, I went to Phnom Penh, which didn't really back then have even street lights at night. And the plan was I had a hostel that I was being recommended. And so the guy hadn't even instructed the taxi driver that I found to go to this place. But one of the things they do is they say that, the place you're planning to go to is being closed down now. And, they take you somewhere else where they get probably just their commission, I guess, or maybe worse. But one thing I learned, because this happened multiple times in other places as well, is I learned that when they do that, I already say, oh no, but actually my friend is already there. Yeah, and they're meeting me. And then as soon as I saw us there, then they were like, oh, okay. And they dropped me off. So it was like little tactics that you kind of learn to make it not insult them, not aggravate the situation, but still get what you need to get out of it.
Yeah, that was a good tip. There you go. A couple of travel tips there. I always like it is, again, go back into Sydney Banks's piece of, I'm very easy to say, like we're in a conversation like now with you, when we're in the moment it's harder, but the idea that your thoughts control your feelings, but not your circumstances. So if you can separate the two, you can kind of compartmentalize it a little bit more. Otherwise, if you think too much about what's happening within your circumstance, you can let your thoughts get away from you. It's like, okay, I'm definitely feeling heightened. I was definitely anxious. And heart was elevated and all those things. Was like, well, I can't control these elements. I can't control these ones. I can make sure I get someone over here quickly as a local. I know where exit routes are. Can I get to my phone between him before I pay him? Yeah, I think I can. I'd already had the conversation myself. I have to pay him 60 euros. Like, I'll pay him 60 euros. I'd rather that than him pull a knife or whatever. You just don't know, do you? So, I kind of weighed up all of my different things I could control. What I couldn't control was while he was driving at those speeds, his ability to control the car. So I needed, my number one priority was to get him to stop the car, because then I'll controlling my circumstances around me a little bit more. But in that moment, there wasn't much I could do. I couldn't just jump out of the car when it was driving 100 miles an hour. I was kind of stuck there, really.
No.
I was in the moment of getting my seatbelt on, making sure that was there, looking around and really thinking there was something that was going to happen. But straight away, so things I could control is I let people know. So I let the group know that I was in this situation. So, if I end up in a major accident and you don't know who I am tomorrow, chances are I'm going to be in a hospital somewhere because this guy's driving like a crazy person. I cannot tell you how bad the driving was. It was insane. The speeds that we were going through those places with and how many near misses he had. Overtaking on blind corners, cars coming the other way, almost been pushed into the ditch. It was just crazy. But anyway, lived to tell that tale, which is
Well,
good.
you have, which is good, and very thankful for. And yeah, I guess next time if you're in a similar situation, you'll be a bit more mindful before you hopefully step into the car. And then, but you know, you live and learn, right? At the end of the day, what did I don't know how it applies to this. Maybe it does, but a phrase that I like, and I had a roof issue the other day, and I've had a few people look at it. This guy came round and it was basically what I thought, or we suspect what it is. It was like a little gap in the beading, which really could just be filled with something, but I think he was letting water in. We're still yet to test it. I'll have to see over the next winter. But he said, look, and he was up front with me. He said, look, you know, it's not really a major job, but I charge minimum half day, right? Because if I'm coming, I need to do half day. So I was like, oh, okay. So he said, how much for half day? I was like, okay, fine. Because I didn't really know whether I could do it or not and everything. But easiest money he ever got, right? He was here for an hour, took him 2 minutes. He had a tube of, I learned about this OB1 stuff, which apparently is really good. So that was good. But the phrase that I'm referring to is when a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with experience walks away with the money and the person with money walks away with the experience. And I thought, well, you know, basically I paid him half a day rate to learn about this product and maybe do it again in the future. You had the money, you've walked away with the experience. That guy
Yeah, that's true.
It was doing, and he's walked away with the money.
You'll know, I won't do it now because I'm conscious of your time, but there's a story, isn't there, about the guy who comes in and fixes is it a boiler or a factory or whatever? Yeah. And it's knowing where to, you know, he just bashes it with his wrench and he goes there and it fixes it. And they're like, I'm not paying you all that money to fix. Like, you couldn't fix it. It's not about, it's knowing where to bash. That's
exactly. Exactly. It's like, he asked for a breakdown on the $10,000 and it's like, okay, $1 to like turn the knob or whatever. And 9,999 to know which one to turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's basically that you're paying for that experience, and so that's fine because it's part of the education of everything, right? You know, so hopefully
that goes back to you know, if you even put myself back in the car, now I know the outcome, but a problem is only a problem if you think it is, right? And that it's trying to manage that thought process. So even with your situation, like, can I handle it? Can I not? Do I know what to do? Do I not? So therefore, it's a problem because you think it is. You think that you probably can't do it. Now you know that you can do it. You won't pay for it again. But you know, it's reconciling with ourselves whether we actually have a problem or not. And as soon as you think you do, you probably do manage the outcome of that. But yeah, right. You've got your niece to go see.
Live to tell the tale.
Yeah, another country ticked off the list. I'm not done Morocco either. So yeah, I don't know what that puts me up to. I've got to be around 50 countries now, I think.
I think when I counted most recently, I was around 60. But I haven't done much since I came back from traveling over a year ago now. So I did feel a little bit jealous seeing you because I think you've done quite a few trips.
I'm away every month of this calendar year. Some abroad. First time ever. Every month.
See, you're doing well. I need to do that. I'm going to Estonia, Tallinn for Mind Valley, I guess, because I haven't cancelled my ticket and tomorrow's the last day.
I know you love your sex festival every year, so that'll be good.
Well, let's see. But I've got a nice apartment, which I'm excited about. It's one I know because it's one that my friend was at 3 years.
Velvet bed linen, I hope. You know.
I'm sure it has.
Satin. No, I'm teasing, mate. It's all right.
Nice bed linen.
We're teasing.
Then we'll see what happens. But that's really my only venture holiday. Maybe I'll try and get to Cyprus later in the summer with my mum because I think she wants to go. So we'll see. But I feel like I need some more adventures. I know I went 3 months last year, but that was over 15 months ago now. So I think I need to do more of the 1 week, you know, long weekenders. But I always feel like if I'm paying for a flight and I'm going to the effort of going through an airport, I should just go for a long time, not just 2 days. So yeah, there we go. All right, buddy.
Well, my next trip, mate, is I'll mention it here because I'm quite excited. Is for the World Cup final in New York.
Are you going to the World Cup final?
I'm going to the World Cup final.
How did that come about?
Boom. Because my business partner, who we mentioned on before, who suffered a stroke, is doing a few bucket list things and asked if I wanted to come.
Oh, wow.
So he got 2 tickets.
I heard that the tickets for yesterday's game were going for like $1,000.
He got them, to be fair, he got them very early. So it was all before these major price increases. I'm just very fortunate that he's asked me to go with him. I'll be in New York for the hope England get there because that'll make it that much more exciting.
When's the final going to be? July
19th.
July 19th. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I watched the game last night. I don't watch football, as you probably know, even though I think we support the same team, right? Or we're both Tottenham fans.
Both Tottenham fans, yeah.
But I
thought it was only England then. I don't know. Maybe you're supporting Greece, but they're not in it. So
no, I was supporting England. I supported Greece back in 2004 when we won the Euros, actually. but I've always been an England fan, but I don't know any players, but I'm just learning. Obviously, I know Harry Kane, and I'm learning like Jude Bellingham and a few other ones. Marcus Rashford, obviously, I've heard it from all his school meal stuff. But actually, I rarely watch football, let alone watch it by myself. I was supposed to go to the pub with a cousin and some friends, but I got too tired. I couldn't be bothered. But I watched it myself for the first time, watching a football game by myself in years. And I really enjoyed England's play. I think I haven't seen them play like that, like ever, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
it would never be very exciting to watch. Yeah, good result.
It was really interesting. Really interesting. So who knows?
Depending when this goes live, because England would have played more games by then. So we are, of course, commenting on the England v Croatia game where we won 4-2.
Yeah.
So on that note, Harry, I'll let you get to your niece. It is 1 minute to 5, and you have a niece waiting for you for 15 minutes already. So I'll let you go.
I haven't. I've got one niece in there waiting to be fed, but I think my mum's sorting that out. The other one is being taken to some basting by me very shortly, but she has.
Well, enjoy. And listeners, thank you for subscribing and joining us. Keep leaving your comments and keep following us. Find us on Instagram at the
underscore paths.
That's the one. There you go. Listen to Harry. And find us on YouTube as well. And we'll bring you next episode real soon. Good to see you, Harry. Take care, bud.
Take care.